for me, I love the bite, right? I'm addicted to that ticking feeling of when they bite it. I love throwing crankbaits. I love moving baits, but man, there's something about just that when you pitch it in and all of a sudden you feel that thump. I get excited. Just start smiling thinking about it. There's something addictive about that whole process.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching and listening. We got a fun show for you today. Once again, back with us is Mr. Jason Holland.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about shallow fishing today.
We are. My favorite.
Bass fishing in shallow water.
Does it get more fun than that? I don't know.
That's my favorite bass fishing.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. It's that time of year. It's warming up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
So it's exciting to get out there.
Yeah, bass are starting to move up. You got some pre-spawners there. You've got some spawners coming in. So man, this is time to get shallow, and it's a ton of fun. I call it the full contact bass fishing. This is my favorite time.
It's a full contact sport with Jason Holland.
Yeah.
So, before we get started, remember, shop.gooutdoorstennessee.com. You can pick up a hat similar to the one I'm wearing. We've got a lot of styles, colors, one for every sportsman out there, whether you're a fisherman, you're a hunter, it doesn't matter. We've got it for you. So check that out at shop.gooutdoorstennessee.com. Remember, gooutdoorstennessee.com for licenses.
Yes.
Get your fishing license there. Get your hunting license.
Please buy your license.
Hey, the good thing...
Don't be crazy.
Yeah, don't be crazy.
Don't take a chance.
Support the resource.
Come on. We're out there working for you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what the good thing about the license this year is? It's a 365 license. So it's good from the date of purchase.
Wow, that's huge.
Instead of expiring in February now, if you buy it in March, it expires in March. If you buy it in July, it expires the next July. So you get full 365 days out of the license no matter when you buy it.
Wow, that's huge. How did I not know that?
That's new this year.
Well, it shows you how behind I am.
So those folks that renew every year at the same time, it'll be just fine for that to happen. You'll still get 365 days, and that's great. But if you a late bloomer and like to buy it just when deer season's starting, you'll be good till the next deer season.
Man, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, that's really cool. I'm glad that we're moving into that because I had to wind up just putting mine on auto renewal because I'd always wind up. I'm about to start fishing. I'm like, you know what? It's middle of March. I probably have not bought my license. So I have to go online real fast and get on my phone and do that whole song and dance. And finally, after a few years, I said, forget this.
Yeah.
Auto renewal and I ain't got to worry about it. But the fact that now that it runs the whole time, it really works. For guys like myself, those auto renewing, I still get in that full year, but for the guys that were, doing different things from a hunting standpoint, or maybe you didn't fish that much first part of the year, you like to get warmer, man, you could pick up, that's huge. That's extra dollars in your pocket.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Awesome.
You think about it, you could buy a license late in the late turkey season, and you can fish the beginning of the turkey season next year.
Hey, we nailed it.
Yeah, there you go.
Just now gives you the opportunity to do the right thing, and just go buy your license. Don't play the game; it's not worth it.
Yep.
And more importantly, not only that, not just the trouble you get in. That goes to so many great things that funds everything that we love to do, and that license sales. I didn't realize how important it was. Other than, I need to buy the license so I don't get a ticket and do the right thing. That's the limited exposure I had into it until we started working together and we've had some conversations off the air, understanding what that license purchase really does,
right,
and how that generates not just the money from that to go to conserving and taking care of a resource, but where that comes from a federal standpoint and how all that gets put together and how you get federal money back into the state. It's much bigger than just buying your license, from what it goes from a collective group as a state and what that does for funds back into our state. It's huge. It really allows us to continue having the type of fisheries, the type of hunting opportunities that we have at the state level in an amazing state for all of those things. Well, it all takes money. It doesn't run on thank yous.
Yeah.
And so it has to have funding, and what a great way to do that just by doing what you should do, but doing the right thing, being legal, and what that brings back in. It's awesome.
This message brought to you by Jason Holland
You're
Fishing.
welcome. I'll be here all the next 30 minutes.
Oh, man. Yeah, I appreciate those kind words. As always, yes. You summed it up nicely. One more thing, and then we'll jump in.
Come on.
WDEH AM 800 in Sweetwater.
Sweetwater, the greatest name of all cities I've ever heard. Sweetwater.
There's some good cheese out there, too. Sweetwater Valley Cheese Farm.
I'm not familiar, but now I have to go buy some.
Yeah,
Thank
you do.
you for that. You spent my money.
Saturdays at 7. You can catch the show right there. So.
Saturdays at 7, Sweetwater, Tennessee.
Yep.
I think they make boats there. I think you and I mentioned this off the air. I'm pretty sure there's a boat manufacturer out of Sweetwater. Don't
Maybe.
quote me on that. I could be wrong. Probably should have Googled it before I went in here and opened my mouth and made myself look dumb. Lesson learned. But I'm pretty sure there's a boat company that makes boats.
There may be, yeah.
I don't know.
I can't put my finger on it, but probably so.
Yeah, maybe when this airs, somebody can go on there and post it on there. Hopefully, I will go online and figure that out before that. But if I forget, will someone please help me out and put what boat company is made in Sweetwater?
There you go. But we appreciate our radio partners. And as always, you can find us on podcasts, on our social media. We're out there everywhere. So.
Yeah, I said this in the last time, we're kind of a big deal.
Well,
Mr. Don and Mr. Jason are a big deal. I'm riding their coattails, but they're kind of a big deal around here.
Hey.
So it's really cool because we talk about today and some of the stuff that we've done before and probably afterwards. What's really neat is you see the overall reach of the show, and a lot of the vast majority of what we talk about or topics we go into or specifics are a derivative of a comment or somebody put something on social media. Hey, I'd love to hear more about this. Or so we're allowing in essence the audience to dictate really where the show is about, where we're going with that. At least from what I do, and talking about the fishing side. And so that's really cool to see the interaction piece, which is always important. Good, bad, or ugly. The interaction is really cool, but allowing the listener to drive the ship of what we talk about is a lot. Because listen, I'll get on the topic, and I mean we can get down in the nitty gritty, and we'll talk about just the attributes of hydrilla and milfoil and what it does to overall fish. And I'll get spun out in a hurry. And we'll look up 30 minutes later, and everybody's eyes are glazed over, and I'm completely lost everybody. So it's really nice to have the direction because I will geek out.
Hey, if we get in the weeds, we can always cover it on the next episode.
Yeah, there you go. I've had to pull that escape hatch button a lot. Jason looks at me, he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to roll this one to the next one because you're way out in left field. Let's try to get a little bit more less granular, a little bit more summary." But it's great that the listeners are engaged, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's why we do. I say we. Look at me. I didn't put myself on the team, Mr. Don. How you like that?
Yeah, you're in
why WildCast is what it is, and what it's here to do, and what it's meant to do is that education piece. And it's not. It can't just be all education. It's got to be fun. It's got to be entertaining, and you got to get something out of it. But allowing the listeners to help dictate really where that ship goes is always fun because you're always talking to the right people. Yeah,
we may have an idea for something, but you guys out there are the ones that we're trying to help educate. If you got something you don't know, let us know.
Yeah,
we'll try to get
Please
it in.
engage. I say engage with the agency and engage with WildCast. Engage with me if you got questions on more specific things. I answer questions literally every single day from social media for people that I got a more specific answer that you didn't cover. Man, that's what we're all here to do.
At Jason Holland Fishing.
Jason Holland Fishing. Shameless plug. That's what I do.
And we're back. All right, so shallow fishing today.
Yes, we're talking shallow fishing.
Bass, shallow. It's that time of year. I enjoy this. This is probably my favorite time. If I'm going to bass fish, I don't enjoy as much throwing deep diving crankbaits. I like fishing shallower water closer to the banks, and it's just more fun for me.
Yeah, and it gives everybody the opportunity to catch the quality and quantity of fish because most of the fish in the entire system have moved up. And so for guys that are fishing from the bank or maybe fishing from a kayak, they're not going out into the bigger part of the lakes, it gives you opportunity to catch fish that you may not have an opportunity, in summertime and different parts of the year because those fish, a big, vast percentage of them have moved out deeper and doing different things. And so springtime, man, it's an absolute great time to get out and go fishing. The weather is starting to warm up. It's starting to be more fun. It's starting to be more engaging. And so you're not having to deal with, super cold or the scorching hot. And it's everything kind of line up for, I'm going to say, give or take 6 or 8 weeks, depending on how the seasons fall or how the weather falls in the seasons.
Right.
But, man, it's a ton of fun. Mm-hmm. This is where you can go out and you can fish the way you want. So I say fish the way you want to fish. I like to fish big heavy, big heavy line. I like to cast and reel. I like to be moving. I've got ADD at the maximum that's even possible. I can't sit still, and so this type of fishing, which is casting and winding, or faster moving baits, and I still can catch them. And you can catch them other times of year using those type of baits. You're just not catch them as well. Right now, or in springtime, man, this is when everything lines up, and so it's the shallow running crankbaits, it's the swim jigs, it's the swim baits, it's everything that's moving. The entire system is waking up. The water's getting warm. They're all thinking about spawning and reproducing, and man, it's just a great time to catch them. I just got way off in the weeds. Mr. Don looked at me like, man, you're going to get back on point? You're just getting way excited. But I do. I love this, and so today's going to be a great show. We're going to talk about all things rod, reel, line. We're going to hit on some of the baits, and there's not enough time in a day to go through every specific thing, but we're going to kind of hit some of the high points, talk about where to fish them, how to fish them,
sure,
and hopefully, ultimately, help you guys catch some more.
Let's do it
and catch some bigger ones.
Yeah, so I'm excited to learn more about some of these baits, these options. We've covered them a lot of times. We've covered a lot of these on the table today, but let's hit them again and know what the specific uses are for them, in this time of year.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's a million different things under the sun, but there's always going to be that staples that you go back to. It's much like playing football. You're going to have all these different trick plays, but there's going to be that fundamental post route or that fundamental I formation that you're going to consistently run. And so we're going to talk about some stuff that we talked about in the past. Hopefully we'll give a little bit more information for some people that didn't hear it before.
Sure.
Be good, but also different uses or different scenarios where you want to do it. So let's talk about line, rod, reel, and line. And so before I hop into that, there's two things we're going to hit on. One, we're going to talk about baits that you're going to throw that you're going to cast and wind. The other one we're going to talk about are going to be flipping/pitching baits, more of your soft plastic worms and craws, jig fishing, that type of thing.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of hit on both. We're going to try to do it at a good pace because we got a limited amount of time and there's a massive amount of stuff to cover. So if I hit something real fast that you want more information on, hit me up on social media or whatever, and we'll talk about it. So first and foremost, let's talk about my favorite way to fish right now, and that is flipping.
Okay. And
so flipping, that's just a technique of making small flips, small pitches to typically a target, a lay down, a stump or something, bushes, all that different type of thing. And it's small pitches. You're gonna throw it in. You're gonna move it up and down a little bit. You're gonna pull it back out. And you're gonna do that same. It's that repetitive motion. For me, I love the bite. Right, I'm addicted to that ticking feeling of when they bite it. I love throwing crankbaits. I love moving baits, but man, there's something about just that when you pitch it in and all of a sudden you feel that thump. I get excited. Just start smiling thinking about it. There's something addictive about that whole process. And so pitching and flipping will really give you the best of that because sometimes they'll just suck it in and you'll barely feel a tick. Sometimes they'll hit it, they're mad at it, wide open, and yank it the rod out of your hand. It's just something about it. So we're going to hit on it real fast.
Would you label this as a finesse fishing?
No, I would say this is going to be more. I mean, I'm going to use a heavier weight.
Okay.
I'm going to use a casting rod. So we'll talk about that real fast.
Sure.
Cash and fishing rods, as you all know, seen my listened or seen. Big fan of cash and fishing rods. 100% carbon fiber, 100% made in America. The whole thing, everything's sourced, everything's made. They make their own blank, make their own grips. Huge fan of them. Check them out, cashandrods.com. That was a quick plug. How you like that? It sounded like a commercial. But with that, so this is it's a bait casting rod. For guys that are watching, this is 7'6" flipping rod. It's a heavy power, fast action. It's got a lot of backbone, right? So when you set that hook, I mean, you're trying to pull their tail through their mouth. You're hitting them hard as you can, and man, you're trying to eat. Because typically you need to drive that hook home.
Yeah.
But also typically you're flipping in some pretty gnarly stuff that you need to get their head pointed up and you need to get them out. If you barely set the hook and give an opportunity to move or swim around, they're going to hang up your line. They're going to hang it. They're going to break off your line. You're going to give them the opportunity to get away. So when you flipping and pitching, you want to set that. When you get that bite, you want to set it as hard as you can. Within reason. I mean, don't be, you're not trying to swing a baseball bat, but you want to hit them pretty hard to drive the hook home, and then you want to get their head pointed the right direction so you can get them out and get them in the boat. You need a rod that's got a lot of backbone to do that, but you also want a rod that's not like a telephone pole. You want some tip, right? So that's going to allow you to cast it better.
Right.
That's also going to allow that rod to load up and drive that hook home. So a 7.6, which is typically what I go with on a flipping rod. It's great for shallow fishing. And again, I'm not spending a bunch of time. So if I come up and I'm trolling, in my trolling mode on my boat, I'm going to flip to that that stump. I'm going to hit it on typically on both sides, maybe on the back. I'm going to hit it real fast because if he's going to bite, most of the time he's going to bite when it pops in. It's a reaction bite. And so I'm going to hit it a few times. I'm going to keep moving down the bank. And so you want something that has a longer rod that you can get the power that you need, a longer rod. And also you want that pendulum motion. And a longer rod really helps you do that. So talk about flipping. With that, I'm going to use we'll talk about the reel. I'm going to use a high-speed reel, high-speed casting reel, right?
Okay.
I want like a 7.3 or an 8.1 to 1. I want a lot of speed because I'm just flipping it in, bouncing it a couple times, and I'm reeling back in real fast.
So
I'm doing that.
Your reel brings in more line.
You got it. So every turn of your handle picks up more line based on the gear ratio, much like a 10-speed bike.
Okay.
We won't go into but just think a 10-speed bike. It's the same rotation, but you're picking up more line based on the gear or the gear ratio that you are. And so I want to pick up a lot of line. That makes me more effective, makes me more efficient, but more importantly, I don't have to reel so many times to get it in. I'm not as tired.
Right.
And I can do in one turn, I can do what 3 turns may do on a lower gear ratio reel.
Gotcha.
So you want a higher gear ratio reel. I want to use big fan of Gamma line, 100% fluorocarbon line. I want to use typically a 20-pound. If I'm flipping, I like 20-pound test line. Won't go into tensile strength, but that's kind of what you're looking for. That 17 to 20. I don't like a 25-pound line. It's for me, it's just way too thick, and I haven't had a situation where 20-pound line didn't do as well as 25-pound.
So 20 hasn't failed you yet.
Not yet. Fingers crossed.
There you
go. So that's your rod, that's your reel, it's your gear ratio reel, obviously in a bait caster, and your line, 100% fluoro, 20-pound. Your soft plastics, I like a couple different things. I'm a big fan of Reaction Innovations. It's just a small little beaver bait.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, they're really cool. Got really good action, but more importantly is they got the plastic is a little bit thicker around the nose, and so that's typically what happens when you're pitching. If you have a real soft bait, which is great, is that you'll have a tendency where the hook penetrates when you put it in the plastic, it'll rip out, and so you're pitching over and over and over, and it tends to where that hook keeper is. If it's super soft or doesn't have more plastic around the nose of the bait, it'll pull through, and you wind up never even catching a fish, and you have to put a new bait on. So in those scenarios, I like a little bit a soft plastic that has a little bit more plastic, a little bit thicker at the top of the bait, so I can continue to get a bunch of flips out of it without it ripping out.
Okay.
So Reaction Innovations, it's a beaver style bait. You can use your crawl baits. Another one that I like a lot, if I want to do something different, excuse me, is instead of using a small compact type crawl bait or a creature bait, I'll do something like the Missile. This is a 6.5 quiver. Same type of deal. I'm pitching and flipping. Now I'm just using a more worm style bait, which is obviously longer. It's more slender. And so these baits work really good if you're throwing into, think of a tree that's falling down. You got a bunch of limbs. Well, the smaller, more compact, thin lure or plastic is going to go through and slide through those branches a little bit better than a wider, thicker piece of plastic.
Sure.
And so I personally, if I'm flipping, working brush piles or whatever, that are in the water, or if I'm flipping limbs that have fallen in from a tree, I like a worm style. It gets in and out of those branches a little bit better. So that's a tip. Use whatever you want. I highly recommend trying whatever you want and find out what works for you.
Right.
But for me, I like to use the 6.5 Missile quiver. Fantastic bait. I can do a lot of different things with it. Wacky rig it. I can Texas rig it. I can do all types of rigging, any other state rigging you can think of, even Tokyo rigging, which we've talked about before.
Yeah,
it's a great bait.
all those.
Yeah, great bait for that. So. That's pitching and flipping. A lot of other places we can go with that, but we're going to keep moving on. All right, so we're going to go to the next thing, which is the old chunking and winding. That's going to be your crankbaits. That's going to be your chatterbaits. That's going to be your spinner baits. That's going to be your swim jigs. That's going to be your swim baits. It's going to be anything that action gets generated by you reeling it in.
You're going to move off the bank a little bit further, right, for this?
No, actually, I'm going to stay again. This is so two different things. So if you're on bank fishing, I mean, you kind of work with what you got to work with.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So you're going to do more of a fan casting. Ideally, you're going to start with a parallel cast down the bank, and then from there, just if you're throwing left to right, just follow like you're following a clock. So let's just say I'm casting from left to right, so I'm going to throw parallel like at a 3 o'clock. Then I don't get anything. Then my next cast is going to be like at a 1 o'clock. Then it's going to be and I'm going to, in essence, fan cast along that entire dial. Until I really figure out where I'm getting bit. And so once you get bit with that, and then, again, as you're bank fishing, move down the bank a little bit further, and then I want to make that same type of cast where I got bit before in that same part of the water column. Because typically, if I caught one that's in 3 foot, if I go down another 50 yards, 100 yards down the bank, more than likely that's where those fish are for that specific time of the day. That is where they're hanging out. So I want to cast where I have the most opportunity to catch a fish.
Gotcha.
So if I'm fishing in a bass boat, same type of concept, but once I get it dialed in, I have the luxury because of a bass boat that I can stay in that same depth range around the entire pocket or the entire cove wherever I'm fishing, and so I have a little obviously more flexibility. But the goal is to figure out where they're at that specific day for what's going on, and we don't have time to go into all the reasons why they're there.
Right.
But if they're in 3 foot, man, I want to keep casting and trolling and throwing in that 3 foot range over and over and over because my percentage of catching a fish is much higher. So chunking and winding is the bait that you're throwing has to have it gets its action or it works because you're reeling it back in.
Mm-hmm. Keep it moving.
Yep. And so a couple things that are my personal favorites and I think absolutely are go-tos is square bill crankbaits. Square wheel crankbaits. I love them so much. I actually buy custom painted ones. I know I'm stupid that way. Folks custom cranks. Not sponsored by them. I say this every time. Get no money from them, but they are fantastic. They can anything that you want. They got a bunch of different custom colors. I like custom colors just because I feel like, hey, I have a little bit better advantage than everybody that's throwing the same color over and over. I've got a little bit of a tweak. Do I think it matters all that much? To me, it does.
Yeah, well, you always sneak the red in there.
Well, if you ever listen to this show, I'm a huge fan of red. I even got a red. If you're watching, you can see, but I've got a red treble. At the front hook is a red treble. This one's actually black and blue. I like it. This color, especially in dirty water. Springtime, you get a lot of, obviously, spring rains. You get a lot of runoff. You get there's more chance to have dirty water than clean water that time of year just because of the weather system. So I like a darker colored crankbait because I'm using more of the profile opposed to the actual color.
Sure.
And then for me, the red, it always gives them something to pinpoint. Does it really work? I don't know. It does for me.
Yeah.
So I'll say, hey, it does for me. So if it works for me, then it works.
Yeah.
It may not work for you. You may hate it. Maybe that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. For me, it's a confidence thing. So anyway, folks, custom lures. If you get really geeked out like I am, you wind up buying, custom painted lures. But square bill crankbaits are great. Lipless crankbaits are great. Sometimes they're called a rattle trap.
Yeah.
I also got this one custom from folks. It's a blade bait that's actually painted kind of a greenish, yellowish color that really matches here in Tennessee. That's just that shad color. It's blade bait. Works really good as well. There's a lot of real tight wobble, a lot of vibration. It works great.
Caught one of my biggest fish on a bait that's similar to that.
See?
So,
they do work.
It's a good bait.
Yeah. So I like those type of baits that give off a lot of vibration. So back up just a little bit. If you're in a part of the country where it's still a little bit colder, right? So you're still you're in this March time frame, and it's still the water's still a little bit cold. And, the weather's going to do what it's going to do. You turn around and get a more flat-sided crankbait. So just for a quick tip, the colder the water, the tighter the wobble you want on a crankbait. Don't have time to get into what all that means, but go spend some time on YouTube. Just Google it. The flat-sided crankbaits are tighter wobbling, so they don't have that big, large roll, right? So they're more of a shimmy, and that matches. Right, when it's cold, the shad aren't going crazy and losing their mind. Right, they're very tight swimmers. They're very lethargic.
Right,
and so a flat-sided crankbait is going to give you a more tight wobble, which is going to mimic more of what the forage fish are doing that time of year. Still, if it's warm, the water's warming up where you're at. Absolutely get these larger wobble baits. Bang them into everything, guys. That's the number one tip I will give you when it comes to throwing a crankbait. Everybody gets scared, right? You just go spend $7, $8, $9 on a crankbait, and you're scared to death. You're gonna get it hung up, and you're gonna lose it and break it off. I promise you, you're going to.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now. Get you ready for your heart's gonna get broken. I'm gonna take one that I spend $15 to $20 on, and I'm gonna lose it at some point. It's just gonna happen. Now, you can get better at it. You'll learn. You can be able to finesse it through when you come up on stuff. There's some lure knockers that you can get them loose. There's ways that you can pop your line. There's a lot of things you can do to get them back. But I promise you, at some point, you're going to lose a more expensive lure. I say that to say, don't be scared to throw it. the whole point of why you're out there, why you spend the time, effort, money, investment in all this stuff, you buy your license, you do all this stuff, is to catch fish.
Right.
So what I don't want to do is go spend thousands of dollars gearing up, and I'm too scared because I'm going to lose my $7 crankbait that I don't go and it's so counterproductive. And yet every single fisherman in the history of the world has done the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You're scared to throw it. So if you're that guy, I get it. I've been that guy for years. What I recommend is go get something and start throwing something you have very little money in, right? Go get a lead weight, go get a cheaper hook, and go get a plastic worm, right? You got, I'm going to make up number. You got $1. Yeah, you got 75 cents invested in it. Go in and fish that for a little while. You're going to break it off. You're not going to feel near as bad. And then from over that, you begin to build that tolerance or that ability to say, okay, I know there's a chance at some point I'm going to lose this lure. But you know what? I caught 75 bass, 100 bass on this lure before I lost it. And it's because you're putting it where one, most people aren't going to throw it because they're scared. And then also those bass, they get conditioned, right? And so they know if there's, let's just say there's two big trees that's falling in the water, right? Everybody's going to throw right there in the middle of them, right?
Yeah.
There's no branches, right? There's going to be a fish there. It's fine. Well, the bass are not stupid, right? They see in that open spot, there's lure after lure after lure. So where do they go? They just sit there in the trees. That's in the branches, and they're comfortable there. They got something over their head. They got a structure that are around. And so you're out fishing. You spend all this money, and you're not throwing where you need to be throwing because you're scared to throw it. So no idea why I got out of that.
Practice in your backyard, though. I mean, you could practice throwing into trees and get used to hitting areas, hitting tight spots.
Yeah, it's the same thing like anything else. If you want to be proficient at it, you can't just go out on game day and think you're going to do great. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, I mean, as a kid, every single body of water, every puddle, we'd set up 5-gallon buckets and flip into that. We'd set up dinner plates and flip into that. So go out and practice, get the confidence of it, but go fishing. Put the bait where you need to. If you're scared to do it, just work yourself over time, but you're going to catch more fish. And at the end of the day, it's going to be worth the investment when you come back and you've caught a bunch. So you done turned it off on me. Two things I want to hit on real fast that are super important. Chatterbaits. Probably the hottest lure in the country. This is the jackhammer. It's stupid expensive. It's way overpriced, but you got to throw it.
Throw it and crank it.
Yeah, it's worth the money. It's $15-$16. They're worth it.
Wow.
But throw the chatterbait. It's a killer bait. The one I like, the trailer I like to use is the Torn Outdoors. Timber Crawl, actually based here out of Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy. Hand makes them all, hand packages them all. They do a great job. They're actually going to be at the fishing shows around this part of the country.
Yeah.
So go check them out. Put that bait on the back of a chatterbait, and man, just hang on. It's absolutely, it's wide open. It's 4-wheel drive fishing. So hey, get Jason Holland Fishing. Come check me out. Please interact with me. All the social media platforms. Don't forget the 3 most important things. That's your faith, your family, and then fishing. Thanks again to Mr. Don, Mr. Jason for having me. Always love to come and spend some time with the WildCast guys. So check me out. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, I appreciate you being in here. Always a lot of good information. Folks love it when you're on. They learn a lot. I do too. So now I know the bill of my crankbait needs to be beat up and banged up at the end of the day.
Man, if it ain't beat
drive
up,
it home.
Yeah, if it ain't beat up and scratched up, then you ain't fishing it where you need to be fishing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, hey, go buy a license, get you a rod and a reel, and get out there and go fishing. It's a great time of year to do that. So this is Tennessee WildCast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do.